I think, life expectancy of a type 1 diabetic is much lower than someone else. Obviously, all the side effects with, retinopathy, nephropathy, cardiovascular disease, on and on and on. What did you see when you were reading about that? And obviously you probably don't want to share it with your young child. Hey, you're gonna likely die
Well,
shorter. What did you find out?
no, I mean, he was so like, he was right at the breaking point of when you discuss that, right? So he was a fourth grader, and the doctor broke the ice. Um, Him and the doctor had a little bit of a bond because they're going to the same school, and they're talking. And Dave is super bright, so you kind of get the feeling like he can handle little reality. And so we never sugarcoated it from him. Maybe if he was like a little older, a little younger, first grade or second grade, we would have paused on that. But he knew right away, and I was sharing with him right away, like, hey, we got to get this problem under control. Look at this, look at that. The outcomes are the following. As you said, like I have a bunch of research slides, of course, but let's say 15 years if you're diagnosed early. But it's not just 15 years that you lose. These kids are running A1Cs of 8% on average. They come down a little bit as an adult, but there's about 100 complications of hyperglycemia. When you go to the endocrinologist, they might test for one or two, or look in your kidney blood work, at which time you're already in big trouble. But every complication is horrible. Like we know now that most kids, type 1 kids, have early gastroparesis. Well, if you go onto the Facebook groups, the social media groups, and search gastroparesis and read some of the horror stories, and that's just one complication, which is an apathy of the vagus nerve. You have people that can't, they vomit when they eat, they can't digest food, they're in pain just from eating. And this is the tip of the iceberg. This is not like type 2, where you have sort of a slow onset, takes many decades. These kids that are diagnosed, they're going to have problems right away. We know now that the kids have problems with the formation of gray and white matter. The gray and white matter ratios are way off when they're little. We know if you search like type 1 child brain in the literature, there's more papers coming out every day about that topic. And that's the tip of the iceberg. There's papers that the ADA publishes on the one hand that show that the micro and macrovascular complications start as soon as blood sugars go up. But on the other hand, they pay minor lip service to low carb, and they're telling people to run these super high blood sugars.
Yeah, let's take a second to the current guidelines. Yeah. I mean, from what I've seen, their target is an A1C of 7, just under 7, and it's 70 to 180 milligrams per deciliter 70% of the time. So 30% of the time you can be above that. You'd be running 200 plus, and that's the goals. I mean, it's just like your goal is to have these people die early, and have all these complications with those numbers. I mean, realistically, isn't that?
I suspect that they don't have, aside from low carb, which the former ADA CEO used. She was type 2, and she basically reversed her type 2 diabetes, as far as I know, and was showing her flatline CGM graph to other people with diabetes at conferences, and refused to eat rice and bread at lunches. I think she refused some rice, and then someone told her it was cauliflower rice. Aside from that, and she's now gone. Aside from that, they're telling people to run this time in range up to 180. And why are they doing that? I suspect that the treatments that they are pushing, which are medical and device oriented, they know they can't perform to the truly normal standards. So they soften the standards instead of try to understand how to attain truly normal blood sugars using the insulin tools we already have and dietary intervention. That's the story. We've published papers in the Journal of Pediatrics about all this stuff. And not a single ADA person or a single endocrinologist has reached out and said, hey, how do you cover protein? How are you actually using basal insulin to get these results? Does it work with an insulin pump? There's been no industry interest. They just want to sweep it aside.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard, gosh, in the last few years, especially, it's hard not to get jaded and look at this and say, these people don't care. They just care about making money. And in many cases, and even the physicians that, they just don't know. They have, like you said, it could be. And why was that? I can't remember her name, Tracy, I forget the name of the president, the former president of the ADA.
Brown.
Yeah, she's gone. Why is she gone? Did they not like the fact that she was low carb, or I wonder what happened, or is there just a term limit or something like that? It's just like, this is a person that's espousing maybe a dietary approach, and she's removed from her position in that place. I don't know the details behind that. Let's talk a little bit about Dr. Bernstein. I've got his book. I've read his book. I've read a bunch of books on diabetes. I've read the plant-based one just to see what's out there for contrast. And who is Dr. Bernstein? Because I think it's important to talk about who he is, because he has some insight more than most people have.
Yeah, and I got an interesting carnivore nugget for you from Bernstein that you might not have heard. But yeah, Bernstein is the book that my wife got in the diabetes solution. And I guess she got it from Googling low carb and diabetes and so on, found him. But he's a remarkable guy. He was, and part of the reason we've developed a close friendship, Bernstein and I, was because he was originally a physicist, and he went to Columbia, was studying physics, and his classmates and lab partners went on to be physics greats that, of course, I know because that's my business. And so we when I reached out to him, and that's, I'm cutting through the story, but what happened was we took his book and we had Dave's, in about a month, we had Dave's blood sugars perfect. And I sent him the graphs, and then called him. And that's a funny story too. But anyhow, we developed kind of a friendship that wasn't just the diabetes thing, but we talk a lot of physics. And then I said, well, let's start a YouTube channel. You were diagnosed at age 12. You're 84 now. He's still practicing medicine. He gave up physics when he figured out how to control his type 1, and got a medical degree when he was 44. Wrote the book and been treating people. But I said, a lot of people don't know your message. Let's get it out there in a more modern venue in YouTube. So we started controlling running his YouTube channel, Dave and I, and then later Hayden, and put out maybe 150 videos. I wanted to catalog everything that he knew, because there was so much more than the book. I wanted to get that information locked up somewhere. And I thought YouTube was the right way to do it.